That's it. Welcome to another one. It's been a while. Welcome, Rowan, and welcome, Mr. Willard. Welcome to all our listeners. Just a reminder, we tend to not take ourselves too seriously. That's why we call ourselves the Weekend Warriors. Thank you very much, Mr. Willard, for joining us. It's going to be very interesting. We've been pining to have somebody from the Special Task Force for quite a while. So thanks for granting us this opportunity to have a chat with you. Yeah, please, Rowan, introduce Mr. Willard properly.
Yeah, good evening, guys. Welcome to Weekend Warrior. Sorry we're a little bit late. The Prince of Darkness struck here in the garden route, and we had to sort out some technical difficulties. Yeah, guys, fortunate tonight, Mr. Shane Willard, former Special Task Force operator. I'm sure he'll correct me. Security contractor, multiple book author. And we're very fortunate to have him on the show tonight to tackle some of the burning questions and some of the myths surrounding the Special Task Force. Shane, very welcome on Weekend Warrior, and thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me on the show. And yes, I'm glad to oblige. And, I hope the listeners get the interesting answers they are looking for, and I hope I can obviously introduce the task force as it were, and in those days when I was there, that I can introduce all the qualities and the good operators that we forge in the unit, and all the good operations that we've done. That is a passion of mine, to be able to portray and to introduce the task force with the first book, to not only to South Africa, but the world also needs to know.
So, guys, please, for tonight, I'm going to ask you to please click on the link and subscribe to the channel. And there's two things that I think needs mentioning before we really kick off on the show. The first thing is the Dear SA campaign to help us prevent this ridiculous legislation that they want to bring in terms of the firearm licensing. I'm going to put the link on Facebook and stuff. It is on there. Have your say, and let's do everything we can to prevent the ruling party from taking our guns away. I mean, there's currently about 90,000 submissions, and we're aiming to break 100,000, and then it's just cherry in the cake from there. And guys, but one thing that we have to discuss it. This crazy shooting in Delmas yesterday, Nicholas Devonish, what a hero, undergunned, outmatched, undergunned, but still taking out two hijackers with him, but still losing his life in the process. Sad, very, very sad.
Yeah, we saw it over the weekend, and it seems that he was on his way to a rifle shooting competition with the SA Hunters Association, and I know it sounds if you would call it anything, it's not going out in a blaze of glory, because you'd want him to have survived it, but very tough situation. Very tough time for us in South Africa to just be, and I know Shane being from the police, and let's call it a different time, but these days it's very tough for anybody just to look after himself and his loved ones. So yeah, he paid the ultimate price, but yeah, took two guys with him, and I bet there will be a lot more discussion in the firearms community for the next month or so, trying to dissect what went on there, and hopefully they can find the rest of the buggers as well. These bastards, they need to be removed from society. But yeah, that's about it.
Shane, I mean, you've been on the sharp end of a very sharp stick, for a day job, and I mean, if I think about what happened to Nicholas Devonish, I mean, one thing that stood out for me was that he was outnumbered, outgunned, but in a case such as this, mindset and training is obviously something that plays a massive role, and that's something that you must have some insight in, from your career. What would your opinion be on, how can a civilian prepare himself for something like that? I mean, I think there's a lot of guys that think they're prepared, but they are not really.
Okay, I've written in my first book, I've written about that actually quite extensively. And the first book is called The Truth About Self-Defense, a guideline for women and teenagers around the world to obtain the best knowledge available about self-defense. That is the first book I've written because women and children is valuable to me. They're the weaker physical people of our society, right? And in that, I say in one of the chapters, I say sometimes you think always sometimes it's these big tough guys that can have the heart of a lion, but it's not always, It is sometimes the smaller guys, it's sometimes the guys that's got the will to survive, that's got the mentality. You can also see it in that Cash and Transit heist of Leo Prinsloo, that he, I don't know if you guys watch that shows, that he was on a selection course with me, just for interesting sake. Selection course number 13. Right. So he says in his training, it's a lot about mentality, about the mind. He wants to get the mind right for this. So in my first book that I've already told you the title about, extensively I've explained about how to get your mind right, especially for a person that's not a combatant, that's not a soldier, that was not a police officer. I can talk about that for a long time, but buy the book and read.
You're muted, Rowan.
Yes.
Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. Yeah. So Shane, take us back right to the very, very beginning. I mean, where were you born, grown up, go to school, SAPS college? Where did it start for Shane Willard?
I was born in Transkei in Butterworth. So I could only speak Xhosa and English. And then obviously mother got separated from my father, and I had an Afrikaans grandmother that looked after me. Then I was sent to Afrikaans school. My sister, 3 years older, was sent to English school because she was still too old to introduce the boer tradition. And so I went to Paul Roos Gymnasium in Stellenbosch. I matriculated there. After that, I didn't know where life's gonna push me. And then my friends went to the prison service, so I just followed them. I thought, okay, they go there, so I'm also gonna go there. So I was at prison service for 4 years. 3 of the 4 years I was a dog handler, dog instructor. I love dogs a lot, animals, dogs especially. It's my passion. And then it just became too boring, standing there, guard, and most of the time nothing happens. But that's also a time where I've been forced to go to my next mission. So everybody reaches a time in their life where then, you don't know, you need something else now. You've reached your peak. Like I want to get one of the task force guys whose name is Watson, one of my favorite guys, he's one of the guys I look up to in the unit, then at the stage he would tell me he's now at the ceiling, if he reaches the top in the task force, he don't know what to do. He don't know where to go now. He still wants to grow, and that is with all of us, with all of us that wants to grow. And then after 3 years in the dog unit, I didn't know where to go. I had to go somewhere. So I took, at the end of the day, I took a transfer to the SA Police, interdepartmental transfer, and then I was stationed in Cape Town for a year. And then, it also became a little bit too boring for me. Complaints and all of the rest of the stuff. And then I heard about this one guy, his name was Herman. He was as fit as a wind down. He spoke about the task force selection. And I found him on the street. He spoke to other policemen. And then I questioned him about it. And then it was something like 3 weeks. He was going to go on the selection course. And I asked him, where can I apply? And one of the ladies in the police force, they knew somebody, and they put my name on the list. Right, and everybody thought Herman, that's fit as a wind down, is going to make it. And Shane Willard, he's a little bit stronger, whatever. He's probably going to come back soon. I never saw Herman after that. Okay, I made a selection course, and and basically that's it. And I stayed in the task force for 10 years and a month, something like that. 10 years and a month, and then I left for certain reasons, which I will display the reasons why I left. And it's in my book. A lot of guys also left, and to become, if you want to call it, the soldier of fortune, but not the mercenary. Private military contractor or risk manager or whatever I'm now. So I've basically been protecting people since I left school. So that's what I'm good with, and that's what I'm currently still doing.
Right. If I can ask one question, and we've seen. Look, I wouldn't say I grew up, but there was a fantastic series of the Special Task Force. But I think it was in the late '90s. It was, and I think it's still on YouTube. And it's a couple programs, and it was very insightful. Yeah, and it was very insightful in terms of the level of action. So you guys, like Rowan mentioned, very sharp stick, and I assume very busy. But the first question is that in selection, what do you recall about the fussbait? That must have been quite a surreal experience in the first place, just to go through, never mind pass it.
I recall most, and I'm the guy that wrote the book. So the problem with that is I relive these moments again and again and again. Sometimes I will relive them in my dreams and so forth. There is definitely certain times that your memory will fade a little bit, especially if you come to day 2 and the last day 3, or 3 nights, 4 days and 3 nights. Something what I can remember is when I started hallucinating, because everybody does. Some of them, when we walk in a stick, then the guy will just start you'll start sleeping when he's walking, and then you'll start walking off the trail. Then you just guide him back. You just guide him back to keep on walking in his sleep. And I saw a netball, or I saw a net, and I took the ball and I hit the ball over the net. That is what I hallucinated about. About the toughness and so, it is, like right in my book, grit. They call it grit. People with grit can keep on going. People without grit, they will fall off the selection. And yeah, it was a time that taught me a lot, as well as it's something that stayed with me, that I could endure other hardships in my life. That I could bite down and protrude. Go through other hardships in life.
Yeah, that must have been like, I think a lot of people don't understand it, us included. Um, and I don't think we even have a proper idea of how crazy it must be. But I assume, and it was quite easy that you recalled you were selection course 30. You must have still quite a couple of good relationships with the guys that were part of that selection course. Um, I assume that's the case, right?
No, absolutely, definitely. What happens in life with everybody, they fall in love, or they get a lady, and they make children, and they've got a household, they call it. So especially the people in South Africa, so they live for that. And a lot of our guys, like myself included, I travel a lot. So I work here, I work there, I protect people here, I protect people there. I write companies, security policies, and a lot of other policies. So for me to keep fully in contact with all of them is not always possible. But how would I say, the brotherhood will always be there. They will always be not only your friends. They will always be your brothers. It doesn't matter how old they grow. Some of the guys pass away, especially in later years, unfortunately. But there will always be this close connection. But family ties, it's also extremely important for all the guys.
Shane, if you, I would assume in selection, how many guys would typically rock up on day one, as generally, how many guys are we talking about?
It is,
Thumbs up.
I'm just gonna throw a thumbs up. I'm gonna throw a thumbs up, and I'm gonna make the number a little bit higher. Than I'll use my selection course, for instance. It was probably about over 300 guys.
Okay,
Right.
so that actually adds to what I want to ask. Because I would think that you rock up there on day one, a little bit of butterflies in the stomach, and it's big, small, tall, short, white colored Indian. There's every shape and size, that you can probably think of. And if you think back on that and the subsequent years that you were there, were you able to, I want to say, call it, if you look at a guy that he pitched up, where, yeah, no, he'll make it, or no, he won't make it, or was it a completely random, um it was a surprise every time? And what would, if you could think back, what was the typical characteristics of a guy that would pass selection?
Yes, that's a good question, and it's actually very easy to answer. You cannot really say this guy's gonna make it and that guy's gonna make it, because certain guys are stronger and fitter and so on. Sometimes your strength helps you, sometimes your endurance and your fitness helps you. So if you look at the photos as well, I've most of the times I'm the smaller guy. In most of the photos I check, and there's guys that's been even smaller than myself that has passed selection course. So I think it's always a surprise. There's many recollections I can think of. A well-known instructor on our selection course, Blomming, Colonel Blomming, he's well-known. He was one of the best instructors and most well-known guys. I can still recall stuff that he told me, like crystal clear. But for the guy that's going to make it, About that, I can talk another 30 minutes, but it's basically you're either going to make it or you're going to die. Choose. Obviously, your muscles can give in or you can get the injury. So you've put your mind to it. That is what you're going to accomplish. Then you're going to accomplish that. It doesn't matter what uncomfort you're going to get. It doesn't matter if they don't give you food or they keep water from you or they constantly come with mental that they tell you constantly the truck is here. Don't you want to get on a truck? You can go home soon, go to your mom's cooking and so forth. So for the average task force guy, he was gonna make it. If I want to say or die, it's a little bit exaggerated, but it's basically you're gonna make it. That is what you want to do, or you're gonna die. And
I suppose that I suppose that's also the reason why they do it. That's to separate the mentally tough guys, because like a lot of stuff we've read and we've seen, it doesn't seem like the physical doesn't matter. It's what the mental can do. So if you can push through.
The mental is much more important than the physical. Remember as well, you have to be able to carry physically. You have to be physically strong enough. Otherwise, you won't be able to carry the beertjie. If you're not physically strong enough as a person.
What is the beertjie?
It's a railway track, probably about a meter long. And it's got a steel cable about a meter long connected to it. And then it's got a cannonball, probably 10 kilogram connected to the end of that.
So there's no comfortable way. There's no comfortable way to carry that.
Where you put it, you keep it. If you put it on your back, you keep it there. I couldn't carry it in my webbing. Like Kalahari carried it in his webbing. I don't know how he did it. It cut off my blood supply of my leg. So I just put it there. I put it there. It hurt. I just kept on walking. Van Rooyen still has a mark here on his back of carrying the beertjie.
Chicks dig scars, eh?
Shane, early last year, we had a Frans van Dijk, ex-Special Forces operator, ex-5 recce on the show. And we talked, about selection quite a bit in the show with him as well. And one of the things that he said to me, or to us, sorry, is that towards the end of their, selection cycle, the last couple of days, he functioned. It's almost like you're on autopilot. There's you kind of go over that hump, and bar injury, there's really nothing that the cadres can do to make you quit anymore. You just suck it up, get on with it, and you just and it gets to a point where whatever happens, you just accept it and it goes on. Did you experience something similar like that?
More or less, I fully agree with him. What also is a major factor is the esprit de corps. In other words, if most of the guys has been watered out and you have a group, the group that's left, and they support each other, and I can very much vouch for that on our selection 13, we finished with 21 guys. We were the biggest selection that ever finished, but we were actually 26 guys. Our esprit de corps was so strong, they could not break us. We stood together. If one guy fell behind, we carried him. Our cohesion was so good that the instructors, they wanted a smaller group to pass, right? So they chose 5 guys. Unfortunately, very sorry for that. They could have also carried their wings and the operator's badge. They chose 5 guys to leave the course about month 3, and some of them are still my good friends, and I think they made the wrong call there. And I think those guys would have been good operators, five of them. And if you have a cohesion and you stick together, esprit de corps
makes a difference. Yeah, makes a massive difference.
You're not gonna take one of the guys. You're not gonna break the unit.
So we always we like the tactical stuff, and we like the physical and the mental aspects to it. But something that Ruan and I really enjoy is the funny parts, and I think a lot of times that's missed as well. And as you mentioned now, it's probably not that funny. It wasn't that funny with the Beertjie at the time, with people still showing marks of it. But can you recall some of the more funny situations that you experienced in your career? Not necessarily just selection, but obviously in your career as well.
Yep, you take me to another mindset now, but there will be plenty of funny stuff that happened.
I see what he's doing now, Ruan. What he's doing now is he's picking. Shit, maybe I'm going to embarrass somebody if I tell this story. So I need to pick and choose. I need to pick and choose.
Let me go to my book. Because there's many stories. It's if all the people spoke that I contacted, I would have had many more operations. They only trusted me because they trusted me to tell the story correct. I would have had my the job category would have been much larger anyway. But I would go back to when we did our rock climbing course, right? And rock climbing rescue rope work is quite a serious course. And me and Johnny Brasbuckle, that's his surname, were climbing buddies. And the other 2 climbing buddies was Dimitri Merritt. You'll see his picture in Operation Isolation, where he still cracks a smile. I didn't crack a smile there. He still could crack a smile, and they gave him a hard time, but he pulled through. Dimitri Merritt and Henny Faroen, which we call Splitpunt, So our final task, for the course was a climb in the Wittenberg Mountains. Just when you pass through Paul, going up north through the tunnel on the left-hand side, there's a climb called Exposure in F major. Right.
That sounds fun.
Those days the grades were still F3, G1, G2. The grades are now numbered like 21, 22, 23. Right, so that grade was I think it was a F3. Right? And then the guys that thought they had it all, they were, Lau was actually just going with Anton Meiberg. Anton Meiberg thought he was now this hot climber. He's going to pass out with a G1 grade. So they took the G1 route. So obviously it's come with a manual, right? You have to read where you have to climb. You have to follow it. It's like a map.
Yeah.
So now me and Johnny Brasbuckle, we prepared, we had enough water and so on. But the previous day, Merritt, he decided now he wants to spend the day, I think, with his family. And so he convinced Henny, Boerweitel, Splitpunt, he convinced him they're going to climb through the night and they're gonna reach the top, and they will finish this quickly. Colonel Saki, yes, what was his name? Saki van. Okay, Colonel Saki, van Rensburg, I think his name was. He agreed he was a course leader. So we sat in the what is the river called? Eerste Rivier River there at that lodge. We sat, we had some cold beers, and the bartender and the waiter brought us some snacks in the river, and we watched them through the binoculars, how they climb. It's a full day's climb. And the night passed, and they didn't rock up back.
They don't come back, yeah.
Early the next morning, we started our climb. It's about 2 hours hike, 2-3 hours hike just up to the mountain. Me and Johnny, we waited for the dream team, the G1 team to climb. And then they battled here and they battled there on the climbs, Yeah. And now we're waiting, we're wasting time, we want to climb. Later on, me and Johnny say, no, we've had enough now. We just veer off to the right. We made a new climb. This climb was much more difficult than a G1. We were probably entering in a G3. So when we reached the team that left the prior day, they wanted water. They said, they
they buggered, yeah.
The mountain, they tried them with a small rock face. Say, listen, Monsieur asked us earlier because we actually threw some water out. It was too heavy. We brought too much with. And then we obviously, me and Johnny, we finished the climb. I don't know what happened to the dream team. They veered off the course. I think they actually went on to the F major one. And then when we reached the top, we went obviously to the lodge, and everybody celebrated.
Did they still pass the course though? Did they manage to pass the course?
Everybody passed the course. What Colonel Saki did, he gave everybody a certificate. So he will tell you passed with the G1 grading. The dream team, which all the time went in front of us, and they went on our route. They got the G1 grading, and we that probably did a G3 climb got the F3 grading. But it doesn't matter. It was.
I suppose you not spending a night on the mountain must have been better. Yeah.
I will always remember it. Yes. No. Eddie and Dimitri, they're extremely tough. They're extremely tough guys. Henny is probably one of the best rock climbers we ever had.
So, talking about specific like rock climbing now and whatnot, there's pre-selection. You guys are that you're being conditioned to get ready for selection course. Then obviously selection course happens, and then once you pass FASPATE and you are selected, then obviously the training starts, and you need to do everything from parachuting, rock climbing, fighting in built-up areas, and that type of thing. What did you enjoy the most? Was there something specifically that you really liked? Was there something that you'd even if you stopped being, let's call it, still do it as a hobby or as a pastime now, like parachuting or something like that? What was there something that really was fun that you would still enjoy doing?
No, very good question. Rock climbing was obviously a specialized course, so it's only certain guys that were selected. I enjoyed scuba diving, skydiving, rock climbing, being an instructor, medic. I enjoyed all of it. Sometimes you almost want to say you take on a little bit too much, and if I go on a job, I've always had a lot of stuff to take with me.
So a proper jack of all trades. Really, really. And was there something specifically that you excelled? I don't know. Did you specialize? Was there an extra specialization that you did, like sniping or that type of thing that you that you did further?
Sniping, I never did sniping. No. Skydiving, I did about 900 skydive. I went to America twice for skydiving. I'm a FAA senior rigger, back seats and chest rating. And I've got a 97. I was SA National Gold Champion in style. Skydiving was my life, it was really my life. So I said, when I'm finished with skydiving, because you marry and you want to do something that's less risky. So then I said, for that, I will do scuba diving. So then when I left skydiving, I went over to scuba diving. So then I had my own scuba diving school. And
really? Where did you do that?
In Cape Town, it was called Scuba Duba. Bloberg Road. There was a big white shark on top of my garage of the table view. So some people recognize that.
I'm used to Mozambique scuba diving. So you guys scuba diving in Cape Town, you're a next level of hard anyway. So just getting into that ocean, that's quite fun.
Yeah. And so what I wanted to ask, so now the training cycle's done, or the initial operator badge is you've got your operator badge. If you're willing to talk about it, what was your first operation that you went on as a fully fledged, operator badge wearing member of the task force? What was the first that you went on, and what was your thoughts going into it, as a rookie for all intents and purposes?
Okay, Roman, that's an extremely interesting question. It's many moons ago.
What year would that be?
1992, I did my selection. Operator badge was designed and birthed in 93. And so I would have received in 94, 95. I'm not sure exactly. So I've got an answer for that. There's obviously been many operations. Sadly, we haven't recorded most of the operations because when I written the book, it was extremely difficult for me. My most difficult chapter was the operations, to get it as accurate as possible, to speak about that. That was my most difficult. And costly, if you want to say it as such.
I've read somewhere. I think it was the books. Some of the guys in the Second World War, where multiple guys in the same unit, and everybody saw everything differently. Oh, that must have been very difficult.
Yeah, I actually want to recite a quote here from Confucius. That's in my book, but I can more or less remember it, but I'm not going to get into that now. So to answer your question, that has been one of the challenges.
And how long from day one selection to you actually going out, out in the field as a fully fledged operator? What's that time frame?
Okay, that time frame is about 2 to 3 years. So
And
you
sorry.
you got a pre-con selection. You must realize it changes from year to year. You'll have a pre-con selection that's 1 to 3 months. I didn't have it. A lot of the other guys didn't have it. Then your full selection is 6 months. Okay. And then after that, to become a full task force member is between 2 to 3 years, because they obviously train you, prepare you. You're a young hound, and then they want to train you to be an operator, to on the ground. All the training you receive during selection course, they want you to install on the operations.
Do you, as part of that training cycle, over the, let's say, the 3 years, would I be correct in assuming there's an let's call it an element of on the job training as well, or is it courses, and then out in the field, or do you tag along with some of the old dogs and sit and shut up in the bucky and look at what they do?
Training is extremely important. The task force, there's two things I want to say. It's for training, and the second one I'll get to just now. Training is extremely important. I don't want to say this, and you get a couch potato guy, and he's done his selection, and now he's okay. He's got his wings and so on. But training is extremely important. That you have to specialize in one or two fields to be able to be the best product of the task force soldier, as I call it, as you should be. I don't want to go into it too much, but I wish the unit, I don't know the unit that much anymore. I respect them a lot, and I thank them for what they've allowed me to do, to get information and so forth, very much so. But training is a lot, and sitting in a bucky and talking to a guy is usually me talking to Ashley Crooks, and he tells me about stories, funny stories, and that's a guy we should have on this show, actually, if you want funny stories. But the training comes physically from some of the best guys, right? So what you should do when you're in a unit, when you're actually in any business, you look to somebody that does something good, well, right? Who's the best in a certain field, right? So I've had certain mentors in my field, so I would have looked at who's the best combat shot, because we need to be good. Your handgun, you need to be perfect, because if you go into a building and you need to shoot a hostage taker that's got a third of his head sighted, that you can see behind a hostage, you must be comfortable that you will be able to kill that person, or maim him, or her, whoever is the hostage taker, on 7 to 10 meters, So I've always followed certain people. I've always followed certain guys, and I would see this guy is good in combat shooting, this guy is good in this guy is good in that. Then I would attempt to be as good as that person, or better. So if anybody should ask me why am I so stubborn, then they should ask Marit van Zyl, because Marit van Zyl, for instance, is extremely good guy. He created the operator's badge, mainly. Marit van Sail was responsible for the planes, all the planes, hostage rescue, developing all those planes. A very clever, extremely clever, and explosive expert of note. So, if anybody must ask me why am I so stubborn, then they must ask Marit van Sail, because he was one of my, mentors, if you want to call it as such. He's one of the guys I looked up to. And so I had, in each discipline, I had somebody that I looked up to. And that is why me personally, I could excel in, in my profession. And the thing is, the task force, it's not a job. You can't see the task force as a job. The task force is a lifestyle. It is important to see it as a lifestyle.
Here's a little bit. It's a more an abstract question. In terms of what people think, and you obviously don't want to give away the real nitty gritty secrets. But what would you say is a big misconception the average Joe outside in the world has about one, the task force itself and the people that are in the task force? Because now, as I grew up, there was all these stories about the recce's doing this and having to do that to get into selection, and it's a lot of bullshit. But you've been out of the police force quite a bit now as well. But you obviously must know, what would you say is a real big misconception people have about the task force members?
Okay, the most of the people don't know what a task force member has to go through to pass selection and the work they do. Most of the people don't know. As well as I've exposed it quite in detail in my book about where the police come from. I took it in the 1800s. I took it back exactly what a task force has to go through. So the misconception is, and I've never been taken on this from nobody. There's 2 special forces units in South Africa, right? Special forces. This is a subject that's very difficult. It's a reconnaissance unit, a special task force. I've also dedicated a chapter because I knew some people will try to take me on about this, about what is a special forces operator. Nobody has taken me on about this yet, because I've detailed it correctly and I've respected everybody.
You're referring to the fact that some people they call themselves operators. I think we saw it on social media a couple of days ago. Some guy from some silly, I wouldn't call it silly. The guys actually do their job or whatever. But the name operator gets thrown around way too easily. Yeah.
But that is fine, Grobby. That is fine. The name operator is fine. Remember, you get a generator operator, you get a vehicle operator, a mechanical operator. Remember, a recce operator is a recce operator. A talkie operator is a talkie operator. The term operator shouldn't be, there shouldn't be emotional context to it unless when it comes to it. You're a talkie operator or you're a recce operator. Very important. That is why as well, when it came to our operator's badge, maybe there's time we can go into a little bit detail, but maybe there's no time. Right. Then I created the trademark, which is called a real operator. So that's something that you asked me about a little bit about. So I created the trademark real operator, at real operator. So who can be a real operator? You spoke about that guy at the beginning of your podcast that died while killing two. So is he a real operator or not? He is, right? So you don't have to be a talkie or a recce to be a aster, to be a solid guy, to be a real operator. So I've now since I've written my book, I've now due to the resistance I got, if you want to call it, I've started from my own kind. I've now created this group they call a real operator, and it's not talkies, it's talkies, reckies, French Foreign Legion, security guys, whoever, Romanian guy isn't there. They real operators, they good guys. They are the persons that will give their life to save somebody else. They are there like a brother. They will not let you down. So you'll see here at okay.
You got the T-shirt on there, yeah.
Yeah. There's a badge I created, right, especially for two flintlock pistols at the real operator. So
we'll have to share some of that to our listeners as well. It seems like a good starting point to understand it a bit better. Yeah.
Yeah, I've also started creating because if I get comments, then I act on the comments. I've started making real operator products and apparel. All right. I've made a real operator a sword, pens, t-shirts like this that I'm wearing. I'm busy with a zipper lighter and some other stuff.
So just touching quickly, and this is pretty much aimed at after the task force. You work in the private, let's call it the private military and the security industry. Any interesting places and people that you've been since you left the police?
Yeah. I've been in Iraq for 8 years. I spent in Iraq for 8 years. That was 1993 October. And working for different companies. One of the most interesting companies I worked for was, or the most high profile contracts was for United States Investigation Services, which was contracted to the Department of Defense. We had to protect the Tier 1 principles of Iraq. After numerous companies was approached, nobody wanted to take on the task. I was contacted, and then we started this about 3-year project. I got them the right guys. Was dangerous, correct, but we are trained, and I told them it's calculated. So that's one of the projects we did. After that, 4 years on the oceans doing anti-piracy.
Oh, wow. So please, you must have some interesting events that happened with the pirates? Obviously, probably the Horn of Africa, Somalia, that area.
No interesting events.
Nothing.
You'll see, if you go on my website, you'll see the drill we had. So when there's a video, when you do that drill and you shoot the warning shots, you show them the weapons, they go, because they know you've got a high, they got the low ground. So that, you remember, that's the correct way to do it.
Shane, I want to rewind a little bit to the operational side. There must have been, if you're willing to share, some, if you just look at that video series of the task force that came out, I mean, there was some bloody hell car chases and big shootouts and shots flying, and I mean, and I from what I understand, the average task force operator sees more action in a year than many professional soldiers see in a whole career. And if you're willing to share, I mean, there must have been one or two hair-raising operations that you've been on where it was touch and go. If you're willing to share.
Yeah, I mean, if I can actually now, then I tie in with what Grobby asked me. One specific operation that he asked me earlier about. There's been many operations. Which was my most exciting operation? That's the question. I can't really choose. It's too many. It's unfortunately I couldn't put everything in a book as well. If I can speak about St. Albans too, if I can try and get a date for you. If I can speak about St. Albans too, when we went to rescue the hostages out of the prison. And remember, to rescue hostages out of a prison is made secure, so nobody can get out, nobody can break in or break out, right? So we had a plan. Everybody actually, for that operation, everybody was tasked for other operations. When we arrived in St. Albans, everybody was tired. We arrested, and our first hostage attempt was not planned properly. And then for the second operation, warrant officer, which I call Universal Soldier, Lion Olivier. He's an exceptional task force soldier. I kid you not, really. Him with some other guys, and they were not officers. Now, now I'm going to get, okay, nobody will contact me because I go them back. But the task force backbone was the onderofficieren. So it was the sergeants, the warrant officers, and so forth. That was the backbone of the task force. Anybody that wants to disagree with me, they're welcome. Because I will go with facts. So, warrant officer, Universal Soldier, and Lion Olivier, he took over command over officers that were on the scene, and it was very difficult. There were five people, if I remember correctly, and that could have lost their lives. I was a rope guy, rock climbing rope guy. I had to go over the roof softly. They shouldn't have heard me, and I had to fall in front of the window with my rope over a prison with my one guy, Henny Boerbattle, and then we had to dominate them until the team could blow, could blow a prison door that's, made for nobody to enter, down the hallway 50 meters until I could secure the arrival at the hostages. So that was one of my toughest hostage rescues I had to do ever. And so that I could truly recall. Still today. I mean, I write about it in my book, so it's.
Shane, we me and Grobs, we're two civvies. We're very okay with it, but and I know a lot of our listeners, they like the tactical and the cool guy and all the interesting stuff. So I mean, just talk to us a little bit equipment. I know from my research, MP5, H&K USP pistols. What was kind of the standard loadout that you guys would have carried? How much freedom or choice that you have? Any favorites? Anything that you would have changed? Just talk to us, gear a little bit.
Listen, we had lots of freedom. We started off with a Browning high power pistol, 9mm. Great pistol.
You're going to get Grobby all excited now, Shane. Be careful.
But we shot it so much that it's starting to fall apart, Then they later issued us with the USP. I had a combat pistol. It was the SP2 called 10mm Vector SP2, I think it was. They gave it for me for combat shooting, so that's what I carried when I went on jobs. At the beginning, we had the Uzi. The Uzi started giving issues, it wasn't that reliable. So, and we had the Mini Uzi. Mini Uzi was a great weapon, reliable, and you can put the S8 underneath to use with your night vision goggles. Then we went over to the MP5M, 9mm. I would have actually laughed if it was 10mm, more kick. The snipers went from a usual hunting rifle to Accuracy International, and they went to different calibers. And also, when we look at the assault rifles, they stay the same. R1, R3, R4, they didn't change much. And if you look at my website, I've explained most of the weapons that we've used there with night sighting and everything else.
So, quick question: a round count on your pistol for a year to keep up to standard? A thumb suck.
So, sorry, say again, Garobi?
Your how many rounds a year do you think you clock through your handgun?
Well, I broke 3 Z88s. The firing pin, 3 broke, and when the 4th one came out, it's obviously a new weapon and so on. When they gave me the 4th one, then I graduated 2nd in my class, which I think I would have graduated 1st, because the day before I received the new weapon. That is just on selection. And in the task force, if you have a USP, if you have that high standard of weapon, I don't want to say you get a little bit lazy. I actually want to say when you're in the unit, you get busy. You get busy with operations, training, courses, to become the full-fledged operator that the task force guy needs to be. But there's no excuses. There's always time. You can always make time.
Yeah, it's I've I've had a quick discussion with a gunsmith, an ex-police gunsmith, and he was just seconded from time to time. Was it Malioskop? Is that the training grounds?
Yes.
I think yes. So he a lot of times I would have personal work with him and try and fit it in, and he'd say, "Hang on, you got called to Malioskop. There's something." The guys are training, and the current gunsmiths, they can't keep ahead, and they just need to go fix guns on the fly. So yeah, it makes 100% sense what you're saying now.
Yeah, and that's it. And I mean, why did you guys start up this session? To get this information about ex-military and paramilitary units.
Sorry, just say again, Shane.
Why did you guys start up this session? To get
It didn't originally start off with the interview based show like we're doing with you now. It was more a firearm specific, kind of podcast. Me and both are sport shooters and whatnot. And we talk a little bit of self defense and handguns and carry and whatnot. And we did a few shows like that, and we wanted to get a guest one evening to come and talk about sniping, specifically long range shooting. And through a mutual friend, we met Frans van Dijk, who was the 5 Recce, member. And we realized it's actually more fun speaking to people than just the two of us talking nonsense and recording it. And one guest led to another, and another guest, and another one. And now you are number 90, number 8. We still have one that we haven't loaded yet. But yeah, and from there on, it was all. But we talk to anybody, whether it's somebody like you with your kind of background, adventurers, anybody that we think has got an interesting background.
Oh, an interesting story. Yeah.
Okay, good. What else you guys want to know? Let me know.
I've got a question, and I ask it to various guests in different forms. I've asked it to Frans. I've asked it to Eben Barlow when we had him on the show last year. When the public looks at whether it's the Bush War or something that happens in Africa or wherever, there's certain misconceptions due to mainstream media or whatever. And I always ask them the question, what are in your opinion, the misconceptions and what's the truth? And for you, I would like to ask, you've worked with some of the worst criminals that there is in South Africa. They're absolute fucking scum, murderers, rapists, hijackers, CIT robbers. You've been there, you've seen it. But what do you think is a harsh truth or that is often not told about those people? And what is it, almost a misconception that the general public or the media have about how those people think and operate? And it's a bit of a broad question, but I would love to get your insight into that.
Shane, just to put it into context,
how the
just to put it,
what they feel.
Just to put it into context, we asked Frans van Dijk and some of the guys involved in the border war, in terms of the capabilities of the enemy at that time, and they were, like, I think in Fran's case, they were very open and said that MK wasn't so great, but that SWAPO was actually, it's a big misconception that we thought these guys were just bush terrorists that ran around and weren't professional. And according to him, SWAPO was actually quite well trained and a very professional outfit. And I think that's let's call it the decent, like the normal let's call it the people out there, we tend to live in this little dream world where everything is pretty and nice, and we don't necessarily see the bad and the rough stuff. And it's like the perception that we have is very different from guys like you that were at the coalface, that experienced the real brunt of the bad guys, if that's a way to say it.
Yes. So you want me to talk about the mindset of the bad guys?
Yeah, the criminals. Give us some. I mean, I would say to you, I worked in the security industry myself in a completely unglamorous. I was on the sales side, and I said to clients often that these guys that were to do break in or whatever, it's their day jobs. Like you have a day job as an accountant or a doctor or a teacher. It's this guy's job. Either he's a CIT robber or a hijacker, it's his day job. And like any guy that does a day job, he's good at it. You know, so give us some. I mean, there was, yeah. But would I be wrong in that assumption that these guys they're in many cases well trained? You know, they've got, you know, they don't just rock up, and you know, they have a plan. And you know, yeah.
I refer to book number 1 that I've written. That I basically explain what you asking me now. Remember, the criminal, he wants to gain. He's been brought up that way, as well as the factors that we've got in our country, unfortunately, is conducive to bad behavior, unfortunately. And he doesn't want to be caught. So if he can get away with it, he will do it. And the second thing is our borders aren't protected properly. So we've got a lot of illegal immigrants, and a lot of the illegal immigrants is not good people, you know. So for South Africa, political wise, it's not a good thing. But I mean, I saw another guy that's gonna rise up soon. I can't remember his name, but I think he's gonna change it in the next few years when we've got elections again. A black guy, Jake something. I saw a video about him. I believe in him.
Yeah, but I know. Is it Vusi Tembankosi? What's Rowan? What is that ander ouetjie se naam? Yes, he's very sharp.
I wish I can get his name. I mean, it was the interview I saw about that guy was for me. It's like I believed in him, you know.
Shane, where can one last question? You know, from our side, where can the guys get hold of your book? I asked that. I went to the local bookstore, and they did not have a copy. So, should one want a copy? Where is it? An online order?
I think warbooks.co.za is one. Are there any others?
You're correct. Warbooks in South Africa. Then I'm busy now with preparing my book to be keen already on Amazon. It is a huge project. I didn't know it was that much work. So I can't tell you in a month's time or 3 months' time it will be available on Amazon. And then they can also get it directly from myself. And if they want a signed copy, or if they want me to write something in front of the book, you know, like
all right.
Yeah.
Where do they get a hold of you on that? Give us that website address.
The best would be shane@asda.co.za.
Simple as that. We'll publish that on our feeds, and we'll share some of the places where your books can be bought from. and hopefully you can get your Kindle version quick. Yeah. But Shane, thank you so much. Just for a quick glimpse into the special task force. It's like we've said. We've been wanting to speak to somebody, and again, it's like the premise of it is that you see a lot, you see some print, you see some media, but one never really knows the finer detail and a lot of the real stories. So thank you very much for taking the time and chatting to us. And yeah, all the best. Hopefully you get a couple more books, and yeah, good luck for everything going forward.
Yes, Grobby, thanks for having me on the show. And for all the listeners, truly, if you want to have a more in-depth knowledge and realize what the task force were and, are about, want to call it as such, you will have to read a book, And secondly, if you want to know more about the security situation and getting the mind ready for protecting yourself should something go wrong with you in South Africa, that's why I've written the first book, The Truth About Self-Defense, It's you can pay for a course and so forth, but if you read the book, it's gonna open up. It will open up your mind. Obviously.
Yeah, we'll definitely share some links to where those books can be bought. But again, yeah, thank you very much for taking the time to chat to us. Yeah.
Yeah, Shane, from our side as well, thank you very much. It's always difficult. You were willing to talk from the moment I made contact with you. Sometimes I have to persuade guests and tell them, yeah, we are maybe two idiots, but we have honest intentions. So thank you for being willing from our initial conversation to come on the show. And then, guys, our usual partners in crime, Paratus, thank you very much for always sharing and the support from your side. Gareth, Rob, and the guys from Everyday Carry South Africa, thanks for always, allowing us to share the podcast. Many of our listeners come from the Everyday Carry, Facebook group. Thanks for always, tuning in and asking questions. The guys from Military Pictures South Africa on Facebook also, always punting the show and coming on. Combative Concepts, Arnu, always willing to talk and share the show. Yeah, if it wasn't for you guys to help us market, we can't do what we do. And yeah, guys, please like and subscribe to Facebook and the YouTube channel, and please chip in on the Dear SA campaign, to stop the changes to the firearms legislation. Yeah, and that's it from us on Weekend Warrior. We'll see you in about 3 weeks' time with the son of the I dare say infamous mercenary Mike Hoare. Thank you very much. Well, Shane, we'll talk offline quickly. I'm going to end the show. And thanks, guys. Bye.